Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Hello, friends, and welcome into another edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Before we get to today's subjects, let's take care of some housekeeping notes. You can follow me on Twitter at MikeMMedia. I'm on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media, and you can be interactive with the show on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. We're also on patreon.com. If you would like to be a producer of the show, patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves, the home to our interviews with athletes and celebrities that you can listen ad-free and before anyone else. We have a bunch of swag. Check it out at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. And do us a huge favor, like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. It is a beautiful Monday, August 31st, 2020, the last day of August. We get ready. We are just 2 weeks away from the National Football League. The MLB Trade Deadline happens today, and the NBA playoffs are hot and heavy as we get ready for the second round. But before we get to any of that, if any of you are wondering why I was a little quiet this weekend on social media and why you didn't see an episode of Sports from the Couch on Saturday, it's because your boy got engaged to the lovely Nicole Mancha, so we went ahead and celebrated the big occasion, and we appreciate all the love and support that each and every one of you has sent us, and we really do appreciate it. It was a wonderful time, and, you know, all things being equal, we had a lot of losses in the sports and entertainment world, and we'll be talking about some of them on the Good Brothers later on this week. But it was nice to have some good news in what has been a very crazy 2020. But with that in mind, it is going to be a little bit of a shorter show today. We do have the MLB Trade Deadline, so we're not going to be really going too deep in what might be happening, what the rumors are, because we will find out what's actually fact and fiction over the last, let's just say, of this time recording, it is 7:30. So let's say in the next 6 hours, we'll have an idea of what actually came to fruition, whether Mike Clevenger ends up being a Chicago White Sox. The Chicago Cubs did make a trade to get Jose Martinez from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's going to be a DH and a first baseman that can use some bullpen help after Craig Kimbrell has absolutely sucked it up. But the Cubs had a big game, moving to 20-14, splitting a 4-game series with the Cincinnati Reds. They won on Sunday 10-1. The White Sox come back and win over the Royals 5-2. They're at 21-13 atop the AL Central. The Cubs on top the NL Central. Two Central leading teams in Major League Baseball in the same city. So that is really fun. I think what we really need to just kind of an idea of what we're looking at if you're the Cubs. You're looking for another at-bat, probably, but the most important is bullpen. You need arms. I think that's the one thing we're landing. And Tyler Chatwood is actually hurt for real after leaving in the third inning. Then yeah, you just need to have some ammunition, because this Cubs team, while their bats are up and down, they definitely are a team that you really can't add much to them when it comes to that. Like, what are you going to do, Nolan Arenado? Like, how much more potential or big name can you actually add to this lineup? So what you're going to need to do is like this Band-Aid of, in case you're in a close game, you need arms that are not just Jeremy Jeffers that are going to keep it close. Let's say you are struggling and you haven't been able to score runs. You can't have teams going off and putting 4 or 5 runs on you, because that might be enough to beat this Cubs team on most days. And for the White Sox, you need a back of the rotation type of pitcher. It'd be nice. Like, I think Clevenger's an interesting one. I think Josh Hader up in Milwaukee is very interesting to see. Maybe the White Sox have something to do there. But how much are they willing to trade away? Like, how much does that front office believe that right now is the time that they can actually make a move and it be considered for a championship? Is this their championship window? You know, a lot of us talk that they might be arriving to the scene early this year, and that it might be kind of a year early, but it was always that chance. Is that enough to really gamble and go for it all the way? I mean, obviously, this White Sox team is in every single game. Any single pitch has potential to be devastating if you're the opposing team going against this White Sox lineup. And they have a lot of really nice pitching. I mean, Lucas Giolito just threw a no-hitter last week. Dallas Keuchel is a veteran in this league that has pitched in big games. And if you just add that fourth man to that rotation, and with this lineup, they can definitely make a run to the World Series. But if you're a White Sox fan, do you want to gamble the future? Do you want to get rid of trade picks? Do you see how it looks when the Cubs did it and it doesn't work out? They did get that 16 World Series. But since then, every single move that they've made has kind of backfired. It's almost when you do an NFL fantasy football draft and you try to gamble. Sometimes it pays off and the guy comes back to you. Sometimes you overpay, you overdraft, and that's what the Cubs have done during these trade deadlines. So if you're the White Sox and you believe that this lineup can win you a championship and that with Lucas Giolito and Dallas Keuchel is your 1 and 2, maybe you do go out there and try to get that big name starting pitcher. Who that is, I don't know. How active are these teams going to be with everything going on with COVID? We just saw what happened in Oakland that they had to cancel that game. Yeah, I've always been under the belief, while there's always a lot of action, I don't know if a superstar is going to be traded this year. I think there's going to be a lot of good journeymen from the league. I think there's going to be a lot of bullpen arms. There might be a fourth or fifth guy in the rotation, maybe one or two. I may be completely wrong. I just have a feeling that we're not going to see a lot of movement. And the movement we do see won't be that huge. You have a lot of teams that still consider themselves to be in contention as well. How is that going to play into this? We still don't know how teams are looking at this financially either. Are you willing to bring in a big contract? And for how many years? It's one thing if you're bringing in a big contract and they're leaving your books next year, but this isn't the NBA. That rarely happens. So I don't know if you're going to have a team like the Cubs, who have just got rid of a bunch of staff members from the business side of this, are going to go out there and go get, Jacob deGrom. Like, I didn't think they were going to do that in a normal season, let alone right now when people are having financial difficulties and there's so much uncertainty. And in good spirits, in good faith, can you really expect these teams to be making these trades? I think a lot of them still want to save face and still want to say, well, we were on your side. We didn't want to inconvenience you so much. And let's say, okay, you do make a trade. Let's say you're the Cubs or the White Sox and you end up having the biggest trade of the MLB Trade Deadline 2020 pandemic season. How long is the quarantine? Do you let him go right into your ball club? Do you make him have to take a bunch of COVID testing before he gets there? Is it a 2 or 3 day thing? Is he staying at a separate hotel? There's a lot of logistical things we haven't even thought of. I hope they've thought of it over in Major League Baseball over in New York, but I'm not going to bet on it. I mean, these are the same guys saying like, yeah, you can, protest and then just make sure you come back a few minutes later. It's like, what are you talking about? I don't trust the hierarchy that is Major League Baseball. So I don't know how smooth this trade deadline is going to be. I don't know how many hiccups teams are going to go through. And if you're these two teams specifically in Chicago, where you're in first place, but you also do have holes, you also do have blemishes, there are questions for your team. If any other year you would, and all things being equal, right? And let's say it was the equivalent where they were in first place still this late into the year, into the trade deadline after the All-Star break, yeah, they'd be making a lot of moves. Yeah, they'd probably go all in. But what do you do this year? And if you're the White Sox, are you just thinking this is house money? We go as far as we get to go, and we'll come back to this next year. We'll come back at it, and we'll see who hits the market. We'll see how much money is available. Let's see who we can re-up and make sure that we solidify for the next few years. Maybe that's the route they go to. This rumor of Mike Clevenger, I don't know. First of all, I don't know how Cleveland would trade him when they're so close to the White Sox and the Twins in this division race. But also maybe that tells you something. We know Mike Clevenger was part of this whole big reason of the COVID scare for the Cleveland squad, right? So do you have to look into that? Is that a judgment thing? I don't know. I don't know how all of this works when it comes to the Major League Baseball's trade deadline. What are they going to do? Now, strictly on the field, would love for like any team that's in contention, would love the Cubs and White Sox to get some back of the help rotation and bullpen pitching. That is so needed, that would solidify it, that would make them strong, especially right now where it's just a war of attrition. So we'll see how that ends up playing out. But when it comes to offense, I don't know what other name you could bring into the north side that isn't as famous as this team. What they need is they need Javi to play better. They need Wilson to play better, offensively speaking. Chris Bryant needs to get healthy. Then, when you have Ian Happ, Kyle Schwarber, Jason Hayward doing what they're doing right now, that's a team that can win a World Series. But anything else, you're just trying to polish up what you think is a nice team. I don't know if there's a difference maker coming in this MLB trade deadline, but it should be interesting with two first-place teams in the city of Chicago with the Cubs and White Sox. But let me know, what do you think? Who have you been targeting during this MLB trade deadline as it has been crawling near us? And now that it is upon us, make sure you stick with us here on the network. If any crazy news drops, we will be doing some breaking video news, and we will be doing a podcast later on in the day. If not, make sure you're back here on Wednesday for more Sports from the Couch. But let me know your thoughts. What do you think happens? What do you think about Jose Martinez? Who do you think the White Sox get? Who do you think the Cubs try to get? And what other Major League Baseball news do you see falling out from the trade deadline 2020 pandemic season? I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram Mike Mercado Media, and the show is on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. So I wanted to hit on this subject really fast. I saw it come down the wire a little while ago, and this story specifically comes to us from ESPN.com. Sources: Thanksgiving weekend start an option for Big Ten football. The Big Ten is discussing Thanksgiving weekend as one of several options to start its football season, sources told ESPN. An early January start with an 8 or 9 game schedule at indoor venues has generated the most discussion so far, but pushing the season kickoff to around Thanksgiving is also under consideration. The Big Ten on August 11th became the first Power 5 conference to postpone its fall football season, citing medical concerns related to the coronavirus pandemic. And now, obviously, people are talking about that you had the SEC, ACC, and Big 12. They were going to play regardless. Pac-12 followed suit with the Big Ten and said, we're not playing. The MAC's not playing. A bunch of colleges are going to have to get rid of these programs. A lot of conferences are struggling. So now we get to this point, right, where the Big Ten is like, oh, we kind of want to play. And a lot of pressure from a lot of different ways, from political to boosters to fans and even the players themselves, right? Here's the only thing I don't understand. You know, I get it. Things change, right? Plans change, information changes. I understand all that. What I don't understand is the criticism towards the Big Ten. Look at it's our fault as a society. You know, we're listening and we're being pulled so many different directions, and so many people are using so many different medical experts and sourcing them that they're making their own decisions, right? How can we as a society be mad that this organization, that these conference of colleges with, by the way, amateur athletes decided because of safety or liability, whichever you want to use, is the reason why they're not playing? How is that hard to understand? How are you able to criticize that? You know, you could criticize if they didn't do anything and they just waited and waited and waited. They didn't make a decision, and whatever decision they made, they blew it, you know? Like they just completely bungled it up. That's not what happened here. They made up their mind with the information that was given and the information that they thought was relevant to when it came to money. Like, to me, that is not worth being criticized. What I feel you could criticize is the people now arguing like, well, they should have known better. They jumped the gun. How do we know this isn't the NFL? These aren't millionaires. This is a $1 billion corporation, but guess what? The athlete isn't getting it. And this isn't just a sole thing of the Big Ten or the Pac-12. This is happening all over the country. Not only in this industry, but all industry. People are trying to figure this out day by day. And there's a lot of minds, a lot of mouths, a lot of opinions, just in the Big Ten alone. But here's the other thing too. Where's the leadership of college football? You see, you can't have that because, again, they're student athletes. A lot of you forget that, though, because it's just for your entertainment and they're just helmets and laundry. And you know who I'm talking about directly with that. For some of you who are just kind of generally confused, like, well, why would you make up your mind now? Why were you so steadfast? Why didn't you just push it? I get it. That's just human thought, right? Like, just trying to play out all the scenarios. At least you have some compassion. And you understand that these are athletes that are students first, or they're supposed to be. And at the very least, they're amateur because they're not getting paid. At least not yet. So, I don't know why people are so mad. Like, what did you think was going to happen? So, at least now, we have an idea that they might be coming back. How people respond to that, they'll complain right now. Guess what? Everybody will shut up come Saturday when it's Michigan versus Ohio State. Let me know your thoughts on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram Mike Mercado Media, and the show is on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Before we head out, friends, we want to talk a little NBA as well as the Lakers and the Clippers both advance in the NBA playoffs. The Lakers winning the series 4-1. Their last game on Saturday, 131-122. So Dame was gone already, and CJ McCollum had been hurt, and that Blazers team had just run out of gas like we said was going to happen. First game seemed like it actually might be more competitive, but that is it for the Trailblazers and their very nice run. Luka Doncic is out of the playoffs as the Clippers beat the Mavericks 111-97 and win the series 4-2. And they sure took a couple cheap shots to Luka, but he earned those stripes in the playoffs. And we'll see how it ends up playing off next year. But we have a Game 7 as the Nuggets won over the Jazz 119-107, forcing that Game 7. We'll talk a little bit about that series in just a second. We have a Game 6 tonight, the Rockets and the Thunder. Houston tries to close out that series. And we will see who ends up playing the Clippers and the Lakers out of those two series. But we also started the next round of the playoffs as the Boston Celtics beat the Toronto Raptors 112-94 in Game 1 of their second round matchup. And the Heat and the Bucks start their second round matchup later on Monday, August 31st, 2020. And jumping back to the Jazz Nuggets series, I just wanted to give some love to probably two of the best players of the playoffs so far. Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell have absolutely been tearing it up. The last 5 games, they've been averaging over 40 points, and nobody's talking about them. These two guys are super studs. I didn't see that coming from Jamal Murray. And this is what I always say, at least recently when it came to AK and Eversley. I like this Utah Jazz team. I like this Denver Nuggets team. And that should get you excited to see what potentially can happen to this Bulls team. And if you can find a way to get one of these superstars like a Donovan Mitchell, like I've been talking about, it completely changes your franchise when you have a point guard or a shooting guard. Essentially the guy who holds the ball most of the time and can make his own offense. It changes your organization in the NBA. And if these two teams were called Boston and New York, we would be talking about it like it was the best series of all time. So now is your chance. Jump on the train for a Game 7 between the Nuggets and the Jazz, a.k.a. Murray versus Mitchell. But that'll do it for us, guys, on this edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram Mike Mercado Media, and the show's on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcasts at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the show at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. There you can get our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities. That's patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have a bunch of swag. Check it out at teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Subscribe to us at YouTube, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. And twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves. Please enjoy all the games. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on Mercado Airwaves. I'm Mike Mercado.